Hey, everybody, what's going on? Welcome to the Get the Bag podcast. I'm your host, Gladia Castro. Got my co host, Tim Park.
What up,
What's
fam?
going on, everybody? Super excited to have you guys on here. We have an exciting guest that we're going to speak with today that's doing amazing things, not just in the real estate space, but community and just making an impact in the world. But before I get started with the introduction, don't forget to like and subscribe. It always helps with the algorithm, as we say, but we want to continue dropping value and knowledge to all of our viewers. So for those who have, thank you very much. But without further ado, today's guest, their real estate mastery ignites inspiration, as I mentioned, humble roots coming from, the Dominican Republic to now managing, a 50 unit multifamily empire, really creating that American dream. And coming from the Dominican Republic, providing the educational resources with his nonprofit work. We're going to dive deep into that because I'm really big on community and making an impact in your community. With the passion, he champions real estate as a vehicle for generational wealth building and social upliftment. We're going to talk about his transformative story and just reminding us that, anybody can make it. So thank you so much, Jose Bernard, for coming on the Get the Bag podcast. What's going on?
You guys, thank you, Glider, for having me. Thank you, team.
Welcome,
Of
welcome.
course. Yeah. So, we usually ask a lot of our guests. I gave a little intro, but maybe soaking into like real estate, you came into, I think, DR at a very young age. Like, talk to us about what that was like, and then what got you into real estate.
So, real estate was not the end goal for me at all when I started this. This was, to be honest, it was a way to throw parties without being bothered at college.
I get you.
I was a senior in college. I was 21 years old when I got my first property. It was a duplex in which I had a buddy in the first unit. I had two other buddies crashing, one in one of the other bedrooms in the unit that I was living in, and one in the couch, and they were all paying rent. And I said, wait a minute, there's something here because I'm making some money here. And this was back in 2010, when houses were a lot cheaper. So I said, maybe I should look into this a little bit more seriously. But it was never like, hey, I'm going to go into real estate and this is going to be my business for the rest of my life. It was never like that.
Never is.
Exactly. That's crazy. Yeah. So, tell us a little bit more about, I guess, your investment company as well too, and how that came about, and how you got that kind of rolling as well after getting started in real estate.
So I have always had, and I think I got this from my dad, the entrepreneurial mindset of having a business. And I went to school for business, and I started working at a very young age. I came to this country when I was 12, and that very first summer I was bagging bags and making money already. And I turned around and I started buying sneakers, and I was selling sneakers and jerseys in high school. That's what I was doing. So I always knew I wanted a business. And when I bought that first house when I was in college, I did the math, and it just made more sense for me to buy that house than to pay for it, because I was paying out of college at that time, out of pocket. I was paying for college, and it made more sense for me to buy that house at that time than what I was actually paying. And to me, it was more of a money savings. I didn't know that I was actually going to end up making money. So fast forward, when I did see that I did make some money, I said, let me kind of ask around and see other people who might be doing this. And the realtor who helped me out, she talked to me about some communities out there that I could reach out to other investors and talk to them and read some books that she recommended. And I started seeing this more of a business rather than just the way that I was doing it. So I started back then. I started buying one property a year because I still had my full-time job. And in 2016, 2017, I had also created another side business, which was almost there covering all my expenses. And by that time, I probably had somewhere around like 6 or 7 properties. And it was also enough to add to that additional income so I could comfortably think about leaving the job. And then really thinking about, okay, now how can I build this as a real business? And that came about around the end of 2018, 2019. When then I formed the company, the investment company. I did a joint venture with another investor that we had been friends since like 2015. And then we created this joint venture of what we have today, which is called Sky Circle LLC. And what we've been doing is both. So we've been buying small multifamilies, and we've been doing a lot of house flips. So we currently have 4 projects at this very moment that we just bought for house flips. We're doing roughly at the minimum 1 to 2 projects at a time, a month, for the flipping of the house flip business. And then the other portion is we also buying small multifamily still. Even as tough as it is in this market, we do tons of marketing. All that we buy is off market. We don't really buy things on the market because unfortunately the numbers don't really make sense depending on the market you are, of course. But I'm in Connecticut, and really things on the market here, as in most places in the country, don't really make a lot of sense. So as a company now, we have a small team. So we have 3 other people that work with us in our company. We do the hybrid system as far as how we manage our properties. So we have one person that handles all the communications, all the scheduling with the tenants and with the contractors and repairs. We have one person who handles the financials. We have a bookkeeper in-house, and we have another person who helps us out when it comes to doing showings, when it comes to having to go to a property to do something where they need a person there. So that's the team. And then it's myself and my partner, which now we focus more on really finding deals, building relationships, raising capital, because everything that we buy has been from private lenders, have been from regular people who have seen what we've done, seen their track record, and trust us, and they prefer to have a better return. And we could offer that. So we've spent a lot of time just raising capital to continue growing the business, because the goal this year for our business is we want to hit $1 million of profit flipping houses, and we want to increase the portfolio to at least another 10 to 15 units this year. So that's the goal that we have set. Hopefully we hit at least half of that, but that's what we're striving for.
That's all you can do. I mean, I think sometimes you just have to set the goal, right? And then you'll figure it out, right? And obviously I love your story because there's so many stories like that. Like, you can honestly, if anybody can do it, if you can do it, right? And seeing you coming from 12, I mean, there's so much to unpack with what you're sharing, like so many new experiences. And I'm sure it wasn't, it was a little intimidating, but you didn't let that fear get in the way. And I think you can approach that, you in a way sort of mentally prepared yourself for entrepreneurship. You're like, entrepreneurship is nothing. Like, I've come from, this situation. And I think that's why, like, entrepreneurship is so hard. It looks pretty from like Instagram, when you see the glitz and glam, and we talk about this a lot, but it's really tough. Like, nobody talks about those days where you feel like a failure, right? Or you feel like you didn't, you could have done more, or things didn't go out your way. And so that's why so many people quit. So like, you have to have that grit, that like almost hustle mentality, but also kind of have that almost corporate mindset of like how you structure your business. So I love that. And also kind of not many people in college would have had made that decision of like, you know what, let me buy a property instead of, paying through. So did you use a hard money lender then, or just go through the conventional route to get that first property?
I got an FHA. So I was working full time while I was going to school full time at the same time. So I qualified for an FHA. And obviously 2009 prices were nothing like the prices are today. The rates were like the third of what they are today. So it was easier, I should say, more attainable, I should say, for someone coming out of college and working, because I wasn't making a whole lot of money. I was just working a regular job at that time. But I'll tell you, to your point, Gladia, about, especially with social media, you see a lot of people just highlighting the successes and the wins. And to be honest with you, entrepreneurship, it doesn't matter what you go for in real estate, those wins come after many losses have happened. I could tell you right now, we thank God we're doing really well in the business. Everything is just kind of moving forward and everything is clicking. But this didn't happen overnight. I mean, we could sit here for hours telling you stories of
We have a
time,
whole episode on the challenges and failures,
100%,
right?
really.
you know,
Yeah,
times
exactly.
where everything happened, you know, problems with tenants, deals that didn't work out, businesses besides real estate that I've tried and didn't work out. I almost went bankrupt like a couple of years ago in 2012 with a business. Like at one point, I wiped out my 401k, bought a food truck, and started a business, and that almost wiped me out. But I tell you, all of those little things that have happened to me, if they didn't happen, I wouldn't be as comfortable facing, you know, potential failure or the fear. Because once you lose something, you don't fear as much anymore if that happens to you again. Like, you know, if a
Right.
deal goes bad, until a deal goes bad, you're always gonna fear a deal going bad. After it
Right.
happens, then you feel more comfortable. Like, you know, it happened. I was able to get over it. You could recoup, you could recover. But what's important is it's just like you said, you have to have that grit. You have to understand that doesn't matter how bad it gets, there's always a way out. You know.
Always. There's always a solution to everything. And to your point, what I've learned too in like the real estate is keeping your pipeline healthy and full, because if you're dependent, which a lot of people starting out, right? If you're dependent on that one deal and it fails, that's like the end of the world, right? Because you're really counting on that extra, however amount that is. So if you can kind of if you have 10 deals under contract and you lose one, like, okay, I have 9 more chances. So one thing I've learned too is like not putting your eggs all in one basket, is like continuing the like prospecting and things of that nature. I want to also kind of like touch upon your marketing. Obviously our background is wholesaling, and we're kind of using that. Now we've transitioned to becoming a boutique of like offering services of like off market, on market for a lot of the owners that we reach out, but we're still in a way being able to cherry pick the opportunities. Is that something you're sort of doing too, where you're marketing out through like a direct mail, or what's kind of your process with that?
So we're doing a combination of direct mailing. We do have cold calls, outbound calling, and text messaging as well. But to be quite honest, I would say maybe if not 60, 70% of the deals that we've been able to lock in have been out of relationships.
Mm.
For the most part, you know, we have so much marketing, we have a lot going on. But if I was to look at the deals that we've closed in the last 12 months, I easily could tell you that 60% of them were probably closed based off just relationships.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I know that we're finding that out as well too as we
Yeah.
explore the
You know,
commercial.
and people who are just starting out that understand that, you know, a relationship doesn't get built overnight. And this is why, you know, real estate takes time, and people a lot of times they paint it as this is something that could just happen overnight. Like
Right.
relationships take time to develop. If you do a deal with someone, you know, for that next deal to come, you got to make sure that you do what you said you were going to do. You have to keep the integrity of the business, sometimes above the profit. Like, you know, if I'm
Mhm.
in partner with someone and I have to lose a little bit of profit but do what I said I was going to do,
Right.
that's what's going to get you that second, third, fourth, fifth deal.
Yeah.
So a lot of people just focus on that first deal. They just want
Yeah.
everything to be perfect on that deal, when in reality, you got to think further than that when it comes to relationships.
Yeah, that's 100%. Because, you know, I think we're cultivating a lot of relationships where, you know, when we first started in real estate, we're now, you know, doing deals with those people, right? Just because it's at that point now, like we're, you know, in commercial, and so we're getting more deal flow.
Yeah.
And now we're getting relationships with lenders as well too. So it's just private lenders to traditional lenders as well. You just don't know what opportunity is going to come your way until, you know, a certain deal comes your way as well too. So you just don't know. And I love how you guys kind of you know, pivoted, not really pivoted, but added to your revenue stream with, you know, the multifamily as well. And, you know, I know that transition from flipping to multifamily was kind of maybe a difficult road too, just to try to understand and try to get those deals as well. Can you kind of walk us through like maybe your first deal on the multifamily and how you
Sure.
kind of got that done?
And it was actually the other way around, right? So I started with the multifamily and then transitioned to the flipping.
Mm.
And the main reason why, it was an adjustment to the market.
Right.
It was at that position where you sit and look at it and you say, what do I do? Do I just sit on the sidelines and wait for the market to fix, which I don't have any control over that? Or do I try to figure out what can I make with the conditions in the current market? And in my particular Connecticut, my market, what I can make right now is flipping houses. So, there's not a tons of difference because every property that I bought needed some sort of rehab. It needed either cosmetic or full rehab for the small multifamilies. So going from there to flipping houses, a lot of the systems that I already had in place of how to manage the rehab, the list of contractors that I had, that part wasn't tough because I could just move that over to this other project. The part that was a little bit challenging was finding the deals to flip, right? Because there's some people that kind of focus more on multifamilies, either wholesalers or you marketing, you targeting. It's a little bit different when you're talking to an investor to try to buy a multifamily than when you're actually talking to an owner. So there's an adjustment there, right? And I think that was the biggest hurdle to get over was kind of figuring out that adjustment. But other than that, I think, anyone who invests in real estate, you have to adjust. You could either wait for things to be perfect, and quite honest with you, I tell people all the time, I think we were really spoiled in the last 10 years, myself included. When I got into this in 2009, you could go outside on MLS and find a deal anywhere. That's not the case. It hasn't been the case for the last 2 years. So you either have to ask yourself, do you want to do this and kind of figure out a strategy around it? Or do you just want to sit back and hope that things will turn your way? Which I don't think you do that.
But so many people do that. I mean, how many people started a business or real estate business in 2020? Because it was like a boom, right? It was a takeoff, like probably from 2020 to maybe the end of 2021, early 2022. And once things started shifting, those people aren't in real estate anymore. They moved on to the next hustle. So I think you're right. And it goes back to your mentality of like, what's your end goal? Like, what are you trying to accomplish? Nothing comes easy. And that's one thing, we've learned. I recently, in January, I quit. I was working a 9 to 5 for the longest time, even when I started real estate. And I quit my job in January because I was like, I can't do this. I have runway money. I'm just going to go all in. But nobody talks about like the ups and downs because it does take time. Because we literally, Tim and I partnered up and joined forces, but that takes time and like rebuilding the pipeline. And we just transition from residential focus to commercial. And that's going to your point. That's a whole different landscape of like owners, like conversations, language, how you network. It's everything. So you have to really educate yourself and be prepared to like, okay, the kind of conversations. I'm no longer leading the conversations on like, hey, do you want to sell? It's more on like a value purposeful like conversation like how's your property performing, because we focus on multifamily and industrial. How's that property performing for you? Like with any of our services, instead of coming from like, hey, do you want to sell? Because everyone else, because we're in Los Angeles and Florida, so like everyone and their mama is calling them about selling. So you really have to find that's part of the pivot. How do I stand out amongst the million other competitors? So I think the name of the game is learning to pivot, thinking quick on your feet, and just making the decision and going for it. Like you can't just be stuck. Otherwise, you're stuck with everything. So I love that you mentioned that. I did want to switch gears into your foundation because that was really inspiring, because that's something I also want to work towards too, in sort of cultivating like a community using my real estate background. Eventually maybe long term is like building out like a development like community and like developing something along those lines. We've talked about affordable housing too, but you being from the DR, and because not many people do this, like talk to us about how that started. Like when did you start your foundation, and then like kind of from start to finish, like how has that like kind of transformed?
So this is actually a story of how out of a sad and bad situation, something beautiful could come out of it. So me being from Dominican Republic and being born there, I still have family there. I still have very strong roots there. And I used to go down there maybe at least once every other year to visit family. My mom and dad and my immediate family were here, but they also will travel back and forth. And every time that we will go there, my dad and I, we will bring in our suitcases, we'll bring at least one suitcase full of toys and clothes for kids. And, we will give those away when we got there. So last year, my dad actually passed away last year. And thank you. And after his passing, what I decided to do was I said, listen, I think it will be a beautiful thing to honor his memory and continue doing what we were doing, to create a foundation in which we did sort of the same thing that I used to do with him when we were down there, but now let's do more organized to a bigger scale. And this started out as a small idea. We just wanted to be more organized and collect more donations to be able to help more kids. So it was supposed to just be, hey, we're going to do the same thing, but let's focus on education, because I'm a product of an opportunity of coming to this country and getting an education and getting some doors open to me. I know a lot of people don't have the same privilege. So I think education is key for a lot of doors to open. So over there, there's needs for just basic resources, right? Like backpacks, shoes, uniforms, notepads, pencils, like the very minimal thing that you could think of here. It's a big thing as a need there in some communities. So it started out as something small. It was just supposed to be like, hey, let's try to put together 20 to 25 book bags with everything the kid will ever need to go to school with. And let's provide that to the kids there. Well, once we started that project, that turned into, we did that last September, that turned into about 60 kids, like 60 book bags. It turned into like 3 big containers of clothes and shoes for kids. And now it has translated to, we actually are rebuilding the school down there.
Wow.
Amazing.
That's
how
amazing.
that happened. Yeah, that it's such a blessing. And how that happened was, I put it out on my social media. Hey, you have donations that, I'm doing this to honor my dad and this foundation that I created. If you have any donations, people around my area call me. So we started really collecting a lot of clothes for the kids, a lot of school materials to send down there. So we sent a couple of shipments there. And then when I went there, I was there. I'm going there now about 2 to 3 times a year. And when I went there in September of last year, one of the communities in which we went to give the things to the kids, we went to a school, and that's where we're meeting all the kids. When we got to the school, Gladia, when I tell you, this is a school that it's 40 kids total. 20 kids go in the morning, 20 go in the afternoon. For these 40 kids, they have one toilet. And it's not even like a bathroom. It's like a little shack in the back, right?
Yep.
So, we doing what we went there to do, to give the clothes, to give the school materials to the kids. And then we started talking to the principal of the school. And we said, hey, have you guys asked the government for help? Like, what's going on with the condition of the school? They've been asking the government for help for like 3-4 years. Unfortunately, over there, things move very slow. It's not the best system. There's corruption going on. So long story short, they haven't gotten any help at all. Their roof, they had a roof in which it had holes in it. When it rained, the kids had to move from the left to the right to like avoid the rain coming in. So I said, listen, I think we could try to do something here to help the school. So the first goal was, how can we repair that roof? Because that was immediate. I mean, it was literally, it will rain. Kids had to move around to back the rain. So that was immediate. And I was able to connect down there with a company. It was a construction company. I told them my idea, and they said, hey, listen, Jose, I think this is something that is really cool that you want to do this. And they asked me if you could provide the cost for all the materials, and you could provide anything that we have to subcontract, they'll actually cover the main labor. So I said, great. And we were able I did a GoFundMe link, and we raised enough. Plus I put some of my own funds into it. We had all the materials together, and we replaced the roof. Then from replacing the roof, then when they had one light for the entire area of the kids. They're like, okay, we need electricity here. So
Mm-hmm.
I was down there in April, and we redid the entire electricity for the school. We put fans, we put internet connection too, um, and now it's turned into the community where the school is a rural community, so it's not
Mhm.
like in a city or anything like that. And the next school, it's pretty far for the kids to go there. So what they're trying to do is right now that school goes from first grade to about fourth grade. They're trying to expand it so there's enough space to go to sixth or seventh grade. In order to do that, we need at least 2 additional buildings to have enough space there. So that's the next step for me. So I'm trying to build now 2 additional buildings and rebuild the bathrooms so that the school could get expanded, and then it could go up to 7th or 8th grade. So that's where we are now as far as the foundation goes.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's amazing. And we'll make sure to drop the link to the
Mhm.
GoFundMe link as well.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's amazing. I mean, the most beautiful thing is this, that, I grew up in a similar community like a lot of the skits, but it was still a much better situation than what the skits are in. But this is
Right.
the kind of thing to think about when I went there, that it really humbles you, is that this kids, they don't know any better, right? That's just regular life for them. So when you look at some of these conditions, and you're like, oh wow, like this is kind of sad. Like I really like wish I could help, and I'm imagining these kids are super sad, but that's not the case. These kids are super happy because they don't know any better. So when you give them the smallest thing, they're so appreciative of that. Like when you give them
Right.
anything, like just a pair of shoes, doesn't matter if it's a used pair of shoes or jeans, they're so appreciative of that, because to them it's like, wow, like I didn't expect that. Thank you very much. And that feeling of helping, it's a feeling that doesn't matter how many deals you do, you don't get the same feeling.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's you're creating such an impact there. Like you physically or had a goal, but you know just just knowing that you're going to impact children's lives going in the future, and then you not even knowing it, you're a role model for them as well too, right? Because you're from there, the community out there, you've made yourself here in the US, and then now to give back and building a school for addition to the school. And it's just man, that's powerful stuff, and I
No,
commend you
thanks,
on that,
thanks,
and
man.
that's
And,
amazing, man.
and we're working with the principal and the teachers too. So what we've done is that, so the kids that we help, we let them know, like, hey, listen, you have to keep certain grades for us to help you out again, to bring you, let's say, shoes, or bring you the uniforms they change over there every year. Um, so that's one of the conditions that we have, is that, hey, listen, we're gonna check with your teachers, and your grades have to be
Mm.
at a certain point, because it's one of those things that I'm a big believer that's not just about giving, but you also have to make sure that they understand that they have to earn it somehow. And education to me is like the way that they earn it. So we tell them that, we say, hey, listen, we try to help you, but this is because you're doing well in school. And the goal, what I would love to do besides rebuilding the school, is that I want to work down there with some of the colleges to hopefully be able to get to the point where we can actually offer like scholarships through the
Mm.
foundation. That to me is like one of my long-term goals, is to be able to like do field trips with these kids to schools, because a lot of these kids, they hit a certain age and they just start working, and
Right.
they kind of forget about school. And it's because, not because they want to, but because they have to,
They
because
have to.
there's no money. They have to bring money themselves into the household. But my big goal is, if we could somehow show these kids another alternative, and maybe do something in which they still have enough in the household to sustain themselves while the kids are going to school, that will be truly amazing. That's like my long term goal.
Yeah, and I think you're not that far off
Mm-mm.
off that goal. I think you've already accomplished a lot. It sounds like in what, a year or
It's
two
been a year.
years?
It's been a year.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I think I'm really big on intentionality and where you put your energy towards and your effort. And I think, you know, big thing on giving, right? Without anything return, expecting anything return. Somehow, people are captivated by that, and then you kind of you create this abundance of all of these opportunities that come your way. And so, yeah, that's super empowering and super inspiring because I'm a half Peruvian and Mexican. And one of the things my dad, who's Peruvian, I was very fortunate. I was born here, but he used to take me to Peru like every summer, like the entire summer. And I always felt, I don't know, just being first generation, first off, and having the luxury of living here and then having to go back to a small town and see how the children are. And like, it really kind of, you just grow up different because you have that thought process of like, wow, there's kids my age, working, and I'm here enjoying time with the family. So you really have that perspective, but it's one thing to have that perspective. It's another thing to actually take action on it. So it's definitely inspiring and makes me want to, write up some plans on how to do that. And, DR, I mean, any way that we can help, we'd love to, assist. I recently moved to Miami, so I'm not too far. I've always wanted to visit the DR anyways.
Hey, more than welcome. I'm going there I'm going there towards the end of the year. So what we're doing next is right now what I'm doing is collecting used clothes, shoes, and also funds so that I can send the next shipment there before the kids start school in September. And then to also start working on the school project that we have at the moment. But yeah, any help, it's more than needed and much more appreciated. And I tell people this all the time. Listen, I decided to do this. I'm a big believer. God put things in front of you for a reason. And I went through the situation with the death of my dad, and kind of things lined up, and that was my calling. But it doesn't even have to be something like that. Like, there's so many things you can do to help without going to that extent. And it's the smallest thing that you think you could do. It goes a long way for those who actually need it.
Yeah,
that's powerful.
That's super cool, man. I think just that just resonates with Gladia and I, just because of we're givers as well too, and we're always trying to see how we can kind of give back, whether it's through the community or whether it's through other investors or wholesalers, or but you took it to another level by giving back to your country. So that's pretty special, bro. So yeah, any way we can kind of help, and we'll definitely keep us informed on that. And we'd love to come down there and visit as well too, and see the
help out
and stuff.
so help lift some stuff.
We'll do some sweat equity in there.
Yes, I'm all for that. So guys, we'll make sure to drop the GoFundMe link and how to get in touch with Jose if you guys have any clothes or or want to contribute any way or form. Make sure you reach out to Jose. Jose, so last question. I mean, I think we know kind of where you work, but like, what's next for you? Like, what sort of you set your goal real estate wise, obviously with the community and like your foundation, but like where, kind of expand on like what's next for Jose.
So I have two kids now. I have a newborn. I have a 5-month-old, not a newborn anymore.
Oh, you're real busy.
And I have a 2-year-old, right? So business wise, I'm trying to get to the business, and I think I'm in a really good place in real estate business, as far as trying to shift my energy from the business to the family and the entrepreneur things that I really want to do. And here in the US, one of the things that I'm doing is I started doing this year. So I started working with some public schools in the inner city and doing events with the kids, with high school kids, in which I have a friend of mine who's a financial advisor, and we're going in and we're doing actual workshops, like educational workshops on real estate and financial literacy. So my next goal is, with the foundation, being able to get it to that point where I just talked about, and then here working, we try to see if there's a way that we could get on a regular curriculum or something with the state, in which we could come in and do this kind of workshops with these kids. Because I grew up in the Bronx, and I will tell you that if I didn't come to Connecticut and met the people that I met in Connecticut, I don't think I would have ever thought of doing the things that I'm doing today. And it's just because I didn't know that you could do that. Oh, I didn't know
Right.
someone like me could do that, right? So it's being in front of the kids that come from similar background and showing them, hey, you could do this too. Because if I did it, it's nothing special about me. It's just
Right.
about putting the work to do it. So long term, that's my goal now. I would love to do that here in the United States, build the foundation to where I want it to be over there, and hopefully continue growing the real estate business so that the more it grows, the more I could go away from it and dedicate myself more to those things that are a little bit more meaningful to me.
I love it. I mean,
That's awesome.
you know, you have your hands full for sure. It sounds like, and that's the beauty with real estate, or just having that financial stability, or however you want to call it, right? It allows you these options that otherwise, when you're living paycheck to paycheck, you would have never considered that, because you're just trying to survive. But because you have that abundance of opportunities of income, you have the chance to, you know, raise your children and think outside the box of like, how can I make a better impact? And I think that is, it's not the materialistic components of wealth. It's what you're doing. That is what we're all doing this for, is having the flexibility of options. And I think, you know, when you really think about the wealth and what you're leaving behind, it's nobody's going to remember your car, of course the houses, but it's like, what impact did you leave in this world? And so, you know, sounds like that's exactly what you're leading, and definitely inspiring, something that, you know, Tim and I have talked about, and do plan on doing, you know, once we get the business to that level where
I'm not sure if we lost audio.
Yeah, I think I lost. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't hear. Yeah.
I think we lost your audio there, Claudia.
Not sure if she could hear
Oh
us.
yeah, but anyway, yeah, we'll. I think we lost our audio, but she was on a roll too. So,
Yeah, I know.
but yeah. So no, man, this has been great. It's a pleasure having you on, and I think you know, we'll have all the links below as well too, and you know, how do the people get a hold of you as well too if they want to, you know, get a hold of you as well? We'll have your
Absolutely.
links below, but just so you could share that too.
Absolutely. So Instagram is probably the biggest one, where I'm
Okay.
most active, and my Instagram is my name, Jose Bernard Investor. And you know, people connect with me. You know, if you DM me, make sure I respond. That's where I'm most active.
Perfect.
cool. I don't know
Awesome.
what happened. I got muted there, but thanks so
And
much,
you was on the
Jose.
roll
They were like,
too. I was like,
I was
dang.
I was like, wait, there's no reaction. But thank you so much, Jose. Guys, make sure you guys reach out to Jose. Real estate wise, if you're on the Connecticut market, or, you know, for his foundation. And thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys found this valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe,